Good evening, Mountaineer Nation, and welcome into the Mountaineer Effect right here on Geek Gorilla TV, right here on your favorite YouTube channel, people. Welcome into the broadcast. I'm your host, Marcus Dean, and got the co-founder of Geek Gorilla TV with me here on the broadcast this evening, Mr. Sam, here with us here again. Welcome into the broadcast, Sam. Glad you took the time out of your busy schedule to join us on here on the show. Of course, if you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel below. Sam, I tell you what, man, another good outing for the Mountaineers. They pick up a much needed victory over Kansas, 38-17 this past weekend. What'd you think about the game?
I really think me and you look like a couple of geniuses after our predictions from last week. If I remember correctly, we predicted a 21 to 24 point margin of victory. Went out on a limb saying Letty Brown was going to have a coming out day, which he did in a huge fashion. Yes. One of the biggest coming out days we've had out of a running back in a long time. So I had to lead off by saying that because I was pretty proud of our predicting powers.
That's right.
Overall, the game, was a really good win. I think West Virginia finally didn't play down.
No.
And I was happy to see that. We still had a lot of really bad mistakes, had some turnovers, some bad penalties. Still got to working with some young guys, got to get it cleaned up. But I think with a performance like they had against Kansas, it is Kansas, and we always say, "Oh, it's just Kansas." But performance like that, I think will keep you in a ball game against just about anybody.
Yes, and at the end of in Dill's Brown's press conference today, he said it in. He was proud of the effort and proud of the way the guys went out and performed. But he did point out one thing I thought was kind of interesting with special teams on how he thought there should have been at least 2 blocked punts for us, and he said we got to clean up the penalties, the block in the back penalty, and of course they had that long return on the special teams. So special teams has got to get cleaned up a lot. But other than that, he was, he said in the broadcast he was happy with the team's performance. But he said there's no room for, was it great? No. Was it perfect? No. But he said there's a lot of room for improvement and there was a lot of room for growth.
Oh, absolutely. And, I think we got to send a big shout out up to Motown at Darius Steele's diving interception.
Yes.
One of the most athletic big guy interceptions you will ever see.
Oh, that's definitely a YouTube highlight.
I tell you, Darius laying out like that was, I'm still not sure if he called it. I don't know if it bounced off the ground. Sometimes being a little thick helps because you can't really tell if it bounces off the ground or not. But
right.
It was a superior athletic catch, and I couldn't happen to a better guy.
Oh no, he's super nice guy, super talented. I mean, he's the defensive, the Big 12 defensive player in the year in my book. I mean, even though I might be a little biased, but I mean, I haven't seen a defensive player in the Big 12 yet that could outmatch him on athletic ability and just fear out people double and triple teaming him for a reason. I got to give a big shout out to, like you were saying a little bit ago, Letty Brown's coming out party. He now has a nickname, baddest man in all of Morgantown. So,
I'll call him downtown. I'm gonna call him downtown Letty Brown.
Yeah, downtown Letty Brown. Then I mean, it was just a great day to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be, as Tony Creedy once said.
Moving forward from the Kansas game, it looks this week like we've got a pretty formidable opponent in Texas Tech, kind of a toss-up game. What are your thoughts about Texas Tech?
I think WVU is going to have 3 keys to this game. Of course, they got to start fast on the offensive side of the ball. They can't have any type of a slow nagging start like they did against Kansas. They can't afford to get down by 10 points to Texas Tech because that's not going to be a good thing. They got to be able to score with Texas Tech because Texas Tech has that air raid offense, even though they literally throw the ball all over the yard, and they're going to have to be fundamentally sound on the back end of things. So Tyke Smith's going to have to be in the back, directing traffic. Tony Fields is going to have his head on a swivel as well, just to kind of keep those two, and keep everything in front of them, basically not letting anything in behind them. I think that's another key. If they don't get beat by the deep ball by Texas Tech, they can keep everything in front of them and keep things to a minimal game, because they're going to hit their throws. They're going to they're going to be able to run the ball. But the one thing WVU does have a favor in, they're playing against a backup quarterback. And I think we'll get the win in this one here.
And my thing with Texas Tech, they're on a 3-game skid. And when you have a team that, they barely beat Houston Baptist.
Right.
It was a 2-point game, and then they come out the next week and went into overtime against Texas. Dropped a loss to Kansas State by 10, and then Iowa State by 16. You've got a really hungry team that's coming off of a bye week.
Right.
They've had a lot of time to prepare. I think this is a really dangerous game for WVU. I feel like it's a game that they can win, but sometimes between weeks off and bad losses in a row, sometimes you run into that team of destiny where it's just not your day. And I'm hoping that that's not what happens to WVU this week.
Right. On the broadcast here, I said in the preseason that through our first 4 games, at best, we would be 3-1. So I was a little pat myself on the back there. I called that one there, and at worst 2-2. But luckily, we ended up 3-1. Texas Tech was one of the ones I had circled in the preseason as not really knowing what Texas Tech is anymore, since Cliff Kingsbury's gone. Before him, Mike Leach, he was there, gone. So you really don't know what they are.
The fact of it is the Big 12 as a whole, you really don't know what it is this year.
No.
I've seen more defense in the Big 12 this year than I've seen in all the subsequent years West Virginia's been in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
The play style seems to be changing in the Big 12 a little bit, which I think it's very good to get back to more balance and a little bit better quality defense. But Texas Tech going to be kind of a war of attrition between coaches. Who can outcoach who? Is Neil Brown a better coach than Matt Wells?
It's kind of like looking at yourself in the mirror. How are when it comes to Texas Tech, their mirror images of West Virginia. They're trying to get back to their glory days. We're trying to build the climb and step by step. And Coach Brown also said in his press conference today, he said these next 4 games are going to be pivotal how the season's going to go. Out of those, the as we keep calling it, the murderers row back end of the schedule. I mean, on the murderers row schedule, the only one logically that I see that we could get, I think we could beat TCU. That's at home this year. I think we really can get TCU. And I think we can get Oklahoma this year, because they're both those going to be a Mountaineer, be there at Mountaineer Field. One beating Oklahoma, like we said before, would be a program changer. I mean,
Absolutely.
That would be recruiting. That would be a program changer if we can beat Oklahoma somehow, some way.
I agree with you. Texas and Oklahoma, they're not the big scary boogeyman that they normally are. And playing Texas at Texas will be rough. Playing Oklahoma at home will be rough. However, Oklahoma has not been performing to form.
Right.
So unless they can make some adjustments to get some things going, the West Virginia can sure punch them in the mouth. If I had to make a bold prediction, I think I can't go bold this week. I went really super bold last week. This week I've got to reel it in, be a little bit more conservative. I think we're going to see probably a 34-31 ball game. I think we're going to go, we're going to total 60 points between the teams.
Yeah.
I think Letty Brown is going to have a little bit of a slower week this week. I think maybe some of the backups. I think Singfield will have a bigger week. I think they'll lean on him a little bit more. Day's going to have a big week. I think it's time for him to throw for over 300 yards and about 3 touchdowns.
Uh-huh.
I think it's time for the freaking wide receivers to catch the dang ball.
I have a bold prediction. Since you went conservative this time, I think I'm going to go a little bit bold. A little teensy weensy bit. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Diggy has 3 scores through the air, and he throws for 350. Really think this is Diggy's coming out. This is his. This is his party. This is his take coming out party because this is the secondary for Texas Tech's not top notch. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Diggy on blast. Say this is his coming out party, like you did last week for Letty.
Well, and I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's good predictions. It is bold predictions. My thing too is West Virginia's defense really showed up last week. The Steele brothers are almost back to form.
Yep.
And that could be a bad day right there for a young Texas Tech quarterback. So look for them to have potential monster days at Texas Tech.
Here, Akeem Mesidor, mark that name down. He is going to be a special player for the Mountaineers. As Gus Johnson has already given him a nickname too. He is Prince Akeem. So watch out for Prince Akeem and his Steele brothers. I tell you what, I'm really feeling what you're saying there, Sam. I really am.
Well, it looks like Akeem just against Kansas had 5 solo tackles, 2.5 for loss, 2.5 tackles for loss. I mean, so you're talking about a freshman making a big impact. That's really impressive.
Yeah, exactly. And and how often do you hear of true freshmen playing on a defensive line? I mean, that's
absolutely
almost unheard of, even pre-COVID. I mean, unless you're freakishly talented, and it sounds like that he was one of those what they call the diamond in the rough kind of players. So. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's broadcast. I just want to take a moment to thank Sam for joining us here on the broadcast tonight. We had an awesome time talking some football, and I think we will both be very happy come Saturday. This is Marcus Dean for the Mountaineer Effect here on Geek Gorilla TV here on YouTube.